videos for the day, and I came across a Nolan Wells interview, and it was touching because we're used to seeing videos like from TikTok or just videos or a picture, something without sound. This right here, it gives me some type of insight of how his personality was. Well, give me more, because like I said, we've seen videos of TikTok with him and his friends doing dances and all of that, but I never heard his voice. There's a difference between just seeing somebody and how they acting versus how they convey themselves. But yeah, let's get into it, y'all.
How you doing? I'm good. Well, you've been had a big season so far this year, man. Tell us about it. How does it feel coming in for your senior year?
I mean, it's great. I'm just happy to, play with some of the best friends.
Yeah.
I play with all my life.
Yeah.
You
gonna privately graduate, eh?
I probably will.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. All right, so Nolan, you've been one of the leaders on the team, especially through some of tough games like last week. How do you personally bounce back from a loss like that?
Really just like you're trying to flush it, because like once it's over, you can do nothing about it. Try to have a good mentality for the next coming week.
Yeah.
Play hard. Have fun.
Matchups you're excited for the season? Or are you just taking each game each week by?
I'm ready for the go for a game.
You're ready to go for a game.
That's what I want.
That's been turned into y'all right, bro.
I want that one.
Yeah.
Man, the truth is, we got sons, we got nephews, we got cousins, we got somebody that reminds us of a Nolan Wells. We got athletes in our family. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is us. We have no choice but to keep fighting for our people that's being unalive and nobody getting held accountable for it, y'all.
Or are we talking about the anomalies, like a Miss Rachel, who is now getting death threats and unfollowed just for saying black boys deserve to live? Because one ain't enough. You got to believe the history and not the anomaly. And if you look at how the actions have turned out, people like Miss Rachel are the anomaly. And all she want to do is educate kids. She said black boys deserve to live. And we look at that like, shout out to Miss Rachel, that ain't heroic, nigga. That should be the standard. Mm-hmm. You know how many people, how many black people died singing those same sentiments? What good nature? Or they get online and they start talking about code switching. We know what code switching is. If we know what it is, that's good enough for us. Fuck them. You care too much. They can't take anything away from them. It's not to give away. They can't steal code switching. They can't steal it. They don't have to do it. They're liars. They're living a lie. They're frauds. They're thieves. Why are you wasting your time on liars and thieves and niggas who are frauds? This is the point of MAGA. This is the point of Turning Point USA, to reinstate the tenets of white supremacy under the umbrella of Christian nationalism and the political power of the Republican Party, because illiteracy aids in bigotry. This is why there's a push for anti-intellectualism, because at the core of racism, at the core of colorism, misogyny, and homophobia is ignorance. And they're directly threatened by the educated populace of America. What does Miss Rachel do? Educate. So somebody who has dedicated their life to education and also taken on education and also is an educated person, understands the ignorance of racism, colorism, misogyny, homophobia. Because at the core of it, it is ignorance. What they say, the truth will set you free. Knowledge is power. The information is the elevation.
Yep.
All these cliches, right. And they're cliches because they fucking true. And they're threatened by the educated populace of America. They're threatened by the history of Black Americans and Black American intellectuals. Otherwise, why is there a push to ban our literature specifically?
That's right.
Why? Where's the good nature? I'll say this, since we want to talk about the hair. Are y'all still going to Black-owned beauty supply stores? Are y'all still supporting your brothers and sisters in that respect? Are we still finding Black nail techs? Are we staying down with the boycott? Are we holding the line?
Man, Dante been cooking for a minute, bro. His words are so inspiring. Also, I want to give a shout out to all the white people out there who don't even have to come out and say anything, but they have been stepping up and saying things on our behalf, and they're showing their faces. Shout out to y'all, man.
Service Sam here from a Nolan Xavier Wells update. And here is something interesting. As we know, the autopsy showed a red area on the back of his neck. We also have heard little allegedly allegations that the boys on the island, when they were fighting, some people said that there looked like some people who were like MMA fighters, like jiu-jitsu fighters. Now, we also know some of the boys involved have taken jiu-jitsu, right? Stay with me. Now, if you notice, this is a jiu-jitsu or martial arts chokehold. And these types of chokeholds, they don't fracture anything. They just suffocate the victim and unalive them. And I'm not saying anything. This is all allegedly. But what if it is possible that this is what happened to Nolan and that he was choked? And wouldn't that make sense why the medical examiner would not include his throat, the lungs? Is it possibly because he was asphyxiated, choked? I don't know. What do you guys think in the comments? Let me know. Secret Service Sam out.
That would make sense if they would have came out and said that the throat or anything wasn't fractured. But they ain't come out and let us know shit.
Make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Nolan Wells went missing on July 4th and his body was found on July 6th. And now, on August 7th, his so-called friends, Warren and Jax, decide that they're going to do their own investigation over a month later to try to figure out what happened to Nolan Wells. And they decide to visit Horn Island with their lawyers. And while they're there, someone snaps a candid photo and then sends that photo to TMZ along with the message that the boys were just an emotional wreck because they were back at the place where they last saw their friend, Nolan Wells. Now, here's my thing. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Warren already visit the last place that Nolan Wells was seen with Officer Big Bad Body Built? I'm confused, and we didn't see not one tear, no emotions in the interview or during his little field trip. But they say that Nolan Wells was a brother to them, and they're just good old Ocean Spring boys. What? And let's not forget that Warren's stepmother, Judge Ashley Cole, was the first one to try to put out a statement to tell us about his whereabouts on the day that Nolan went missing. And then, in addition to that, his father has finally decided, after they announced that the autopsy in Mississippi was complete, he announces to TMZ that he's putting a $50,000 reward out for any information about what happened to Nolan Wells. A month later, at this point, between TMZ telling us a bunch of nothing and the antics and the show that is being put on, they have to think that we don't got no sense. They can't think that we smart enough to see through smoke and mirrors.
That's exactly what they turned this into, a shit show. I wouldn't even be surprised if they offered some type of TV deal or something like that. Y'all pay attention to what he say, because I'm hoping that this does happen.
So what we
That's right.
Why?
Medical examiner would not
Shit.
Make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Nolan went missing and
losing all credibility by reporting on this case in the way that you are.
Bruh, TMZ making themselves look so bad.
Go back to reporting on bubblegum celebrity sightings. TMZ, stay in your lane, because this is not your lane. Harvey, do you hear me? What's going on? How much? How much are they paying you? I haven't seen you say once any reporting on what they're doing to Christine Walmsley, the mother of Nolan Xavier Wells. I haven't seen you do one article on her and the harassment, the threats, and the terror that she's had to go through since this happened to her. Can you please get on that? Thank you. See?
That's real. The way TMZ be defending them boys, it was like you would have really thought that they lost somebody in their family. What the hell are you doing? You ain't saying nothing about Nolan Wells' mom or anything like that. That is foul. She lost her baby, bro. She lost her son. And y'all ain't got nothing to say about that? Nothing to say about her being harassed? This is wild.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know a lot of people are tired of this subject and nobody wants to talk about it. Well, certain people don't want to talk about it, but we got to keep talking about it. A lot of people are asking now and saying something that I've been saying for years. If Nolan Wells had lost his life due to a drowning, drug overdose, aneurysm, heart attack, or anything like that, why would y'all not say it by now? Why would you not, at this point, it needs to be out? Like they said, the autopsy is complete, but they're not going to publicize the autopsy. You should. You should. Because if there's a lot of people out here, you know, creating a lot of tension in the public, if there's some threats being made to the family of, you know, the people that he was with the day he lost his life, if the autopsy is if the results of the autopsy are going to say, hey, these people were not responsible for him losing his life. This is what happened. It was a drug overdose, an accidental drowning. You know, we slipped and fell. There was an aneurysm, an aortic rupture. There was something that they did not have anything to do with him losing his life. This is what happened to this young man. That would calm down all of the, you know, all of the negative energy surrounding this this situation.
But they can't do that. Why did they take the lungs? Why did they take the throat? Why can't they come out and say that, yeah, he drowned, you know, it was a mistake? Because it wasn't, y'all.
And the fact that you have not done that, it doesn't do anything but draw more suspicion. Mm-hmm. So if that is the case, please go ahead and put it out so the family can get closure and people can go back to what they can, as close as they can get to a normal life. That's what a just person would do. But the fact that you haven't done that,
it's telling. Says a lot. Okay. But yeah, man, that's all I got for y'all today. And the main thing that I wanted y'all to see was the Nolan Wells interview. I wanted y'all to hear his voice. I wanted y'all to get more insight on how his personality is. I know we've seen a lot of TikTok videos.
I'm sorry, I was talking to myself, y'all. Listen, no matter where you come from, I don't care what walk of life, right? We're like tired, and we're the machine. As you can see, we are the machine, right? You can have all the money in the world that you want, right? But we're the machine, and you cannot outbeat the machine. And I want y'all to understand that. See what we doing to the media? See what they want us to do. Well, you know what? These little boys, da 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 da. Not saying that they're guilty, because you know you have to be careful, because they got these lawyers that try to make your life hell. I'm a paralegal, so I know I can reply back to these people, right? Whomever did this to this young man, it's no way that you should be able to walk away. I'm just looking on the internet, y'all. They have cameras all around that MF, so they know what happened to him. Yeah. They have cameras where the boat houses. They have cameras where the piers were at when you're walking off or whatever you're doing. Cameras were everywhere, y'all. And the reason why they can't just sweep this under the rug, we got to give it to the grand jury. We don't know who the grand jury is. Well, we did. We gave it to the grand jury, and they decided we gotta start debunking this grand jury crap. This private stuff that we don't know if everybody on their racist. We don't know their reasoning for doing certain things. You get me? When they want to arrest somebody, they find a way. Y'all, there are 3,000 just federal and 3,000 and something laws that they could figure a way to prosecute you. Okay? Go look it up. Damn, there's 6,000 plus more laws that they can enact if you violate them and don't do what they say do. This got to stop, y'all. It's in the Constitution. When the government don't work for the people anymore, it goes back in the hands of the people. That's the way we're designed. But you can't go like they did with January 6th. You can't go and do that. You have to legally go do stuff. You can't go and enact like you could just go in and bar guard or whatever it is. You know what I mean? You just can't do that. You know what I mean? So my thing is, if the mass majority right now is debunking this, because you got your little hillbillies, they want to listen. Hillbillies that want to whatever they want to do, right? And you got your bootlickers that probably most likely getting paid, like that guy talking about he was the barber lying. He just was doing that for clout with his dirty face, dusty, looked like he had crater caps in his beard. .com ass talking about he gave this boy his first haircut in the family, say they don't even know this clown. That's the folks, black folks I'm talking about, that goes around and just lie. You know what I mean? Just go around and for clout, for clicks and baits and for money on somebody else's child's soul. It's insane to me, y'all. This how sick some of us are. You got a child that was a prominent child. Y'all, they talk all that shit. They don't go to the hood and fuck with none of them black kids there. You ain't never heard them hanging a child from the projects, a man. They'll catch a vulnerable woman. But I have never seen them go in the hood and play that shit. I never heard them do that. Ever. Never. And they ain't gonna do it. Listen, it's millions of us. And I don't care about the statistics, the numbers. If we created this, if we started this, we're the mass majority. I don't hear nothing about brown and all these other colors. I'm talking about black Americans right now. I am from the Creole Maroons. We created castles and everything in the swamps. You understand? We had black leaders. Go look in the archives. The shit is there. You know what I mean? Thank y'all for commenting. Show love. You know, I'm watching this stuff with y'all. I'm a paralegal. I'm not going to study nothing. I want to watch this with y'all and get an understanding and try to understand what you guys are feeling. And y'all, I'm a paralegal and I will be. Let me tell you something what I do. I'm going to sit down with people and help everybody to show you how to pro se yourself and get your record clear so you can protect your motherfucking family. It's time. Tired of it. You haven't been a felony for so decades or however long. We're going to do everything we need to do to try to get you in a way that you can protect your family. There's no need if you know you out that lane and you got felonies and you can't go get a pum a pistol or anything to protect your family at this point. Y'all got to straighten up. You know what I mean? Let's see what my girl
No, who did it, but we have a good idea of who did it, okay? Mr. Gibson goes, I need to raise money for my defense. Why would an innocent person need to raise money for a defense? You didn't do nothing. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I've been heard that the Ocean Springs is one of the hugest KKK folks ever around. Do you guys remember one thing the medical examiner said for the second autopsy? Do y'all remember that there was something in the back of Nolan's head, that it was some redness? He couldn't make out what it was, but it was mysterious. And it made me think, you know, because I said now before, which we couldn't corroborate this, we can't corroborate it now, but they said that he was hit with poles and people were saying, you know, they were hidden in all these places. It just sounded crazy. And
y'all, he didn't get hit with a pole. They choked him from the back. He was probably arguing with somebody, and they set him up. And this was behind, in my opinion, and it's alleged, I think it was behind a girl. You know what I mean? It was behind a girl. I dare you to go behind me or get mine. Like it's their property. Y'all got to remember, when you couldn't get married in other states, it was illegal to marry a minor. You can go to the state of Mississippi and marry at a young age. Okay, so I'm letting you know how deep this state is. And see, now this state is getting busted wide open, y'all. There's so many people in the last couple of months have got hung, or they have alluded to them being suicidal instead of them investigating these people things. You know what I mean? I got on my TikTok. If y'all go to my TikTok handle, it's the same. I've just posted 4 people that, and I'm not saying it's race related or whatever. I think one of them was dealing with a young black boy, his girlfriend or something. And I think they said something about some polices got involved with a raid. One of the guys the girl was dating, he ended up one of the ones that went to jail. I can't explain it. I asked them to send me the information. You know, they'll go to YT people before they try to come to somebody that's going to get down. It is what it is. I asked them to send me the information, everything about it, you know, write everything down, send it to me, and I have not gotten it. So I ain't tripping. You know what I mean? I would have wrote all outlets. I'd have wrote all advocates. I would have done everything for those people. You know what I mean? Talking about it is not going to cut it. You got to have people that have motion that's going to move. That's it. You know what I mean?
I said, this is y'all lying now. It sound like some lies, okay? But I don't know. Could he have been jumped, beat at this alleged pool party?
All those people there watched and did nothing about it. They are no better than the people that killed him. The reason that Nolan's phone pinged on the island is because they went back and they dumped his body after they killed him.
Now that theory makes sense, but again, I feel like some things have been manipulated here. I feel like some GPSs have been manipulated. I feel some time.
Y'all, the pictures are fake. Let me tell y'all something. I want y'all to pay attention. Listen, you got to do this from a spiritual stance. And that's what they want black people not to do. Nothing they have shown us is truthful. That's just what I feel. I feel that the pictures are fake, but the pictures show what happened to him. And I know you're like, what you mean? Those when they showed that picture of Nolan surrounded around boys, right? Those not the people that, in my opinion, did him nothing. All right. It was that same situation or argument took place. And when they say you're not getting on the effing boat, they probably didn't take him back on the effing boat at that time. And they probably did leave him because they was arguing about a girl. You just got to get smart about it. You know what I mean? And then the boy got on an interview and said, I said something smart about a girl. He said that. Go listen to his video. I'm not going to say his name, but you know what I'm talking about. And I'm telling y'all, this is about a girl that you are not supposed to date. I dare you. You can get all the YT girls because you're athletic, you're hot, you're smart, you look good, you gotta, you know what I mean? You go on a D1 when you go back to school, you have a prospect for the NFL, perhaps. All these things going on for you, right? I dare you, right? Y'all gotta look at the pictures. They telling you what happened to him without telling you what happened to him. All those pictures are not the actual characters. I'm just telling you. Some of them, like the boat where all of them hanging at, they just gave you those pictures. I think stuff is Photoshop. I think that they went and took pictures after the fact. That's why you got the boat by itself. Remember, there were alleged 2 boats in. If you go look at the report of the Cajun Navy, they said 2 boats. Then it became 3. Then there was this mysterious 4th boat, right? Excuse me. So how many GPSs did you get? 2 of them. Everybody that was on that island, GPS should have been apprehended. You know why? Because there is a boat, in my opinion, that is unaccountable that I feel, and that's just my feeling, that he may have been on at that time. They left him there. They left him there. Hold on one second, y'all. Okay. Hello? Okay. They left him there, right? They went back. He got on the boat and it went down from there. Everybody said we don't remember seeing him. Yeah, I'm sure you didn't. They left him there, y'all. And they took his phone when they left. You know how you do things like you're joking? But when you come back, you put that boy on that boat, something, I don't care what nobody say. It's either you did it on the boat or you did it at that party. That's what you did. That wasn't the first argument. I'm more than sure it was another argument to buck them up to do what they did. I think that, and this is alleged, an argument was going on. Somebody bigger than Nolan came behind him and choked him up. And I believe his neck was broken. They all showing, it's a game that they're playing. They're showing you what happened to him, but not with the real people. That's what I believe. Do all these boys know? Allegedly, yes. Y'all got to understand, when somebody jump you, you're going to have bruises because they had to beat him. There are going to be bruises somewhere on him. So they stopped whomever it was, blocked the breathing passage of this boy. That's what I believe. That's what I believe.
Names have been manipulated.
Allegedly.
There's some things that's not adding up. And when I say not adding up, I'm saying, although we heard the CTO call, I know that it's real because we heard it. I just don't know how it fits into everything, because there is a theory that he was unalive somewhere else and they brought his body back. I'm going to tell you why that theory is a logical theory. Because the island was searched. Nobody there. His family went there. The next morning, nobody there. So his body just washed up the next day. We were born on a day, just not yesterday. That doesn't make any sense.
These men need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law because they murdered Nolan Wells.
And they saw Nolan spitting up blood and that these boys urinated on Nolan. They are saying that Evan's mother knew about the whole thing. This is why that boy told his daddy that Nolan was like a brother to me. Was like a brother to me when he showed up to get his car. It's because they already...
Hold that thought. Nolan was like a brother to me. These are the things that we missed originally, guys. Was is past tense. That's past tense. If you hear me say, my grandmother was, or my such and such was, those people are no longer here. Little clues. And this is what I say, when people lie, that's why I don't lie, because I can't remember it. I'm going to...
Y'all listen. These white folks playing a game with black folks. And I'm telling you, they putting stuff out there for us to be doing something else while they're cleaning something else up. Oh, yeah.
Tell myself, I don't care if you don't like my answer. I'm just going to say it, because I'm not going to lie, because I'm not trying to remember it. You either like it or you don't. Nolan he was a friend to me. You know why? Because Nolan was already gone. Nolan didn't decide to not get on the boat. Nolan was unalived. That's
Nolan. Listen, they left him. You can laugh all you want, because I will tell you, what goes around comes around. The one that's sitting here laughing, who did the laughing emoji? Hold on a second. Whomever that did the laughing emoji, see, when troubles come to your fate, to your door, it might not hit you, but it might hit your grandchild, and ain't ish you could do about it. I don't think nothing's funny when people are trying to understand what happened to a whole human being. That's that barbarian behavior we be talking about. We let these folks come on this land, and I don't care who hear me now. let y'all come on our land, because y'all was running from your ancestors, the kings and queens that was oppressing you. This is what you guys think, because you know what? We never talked about your slavery, because the often train is the reason why the word slavery even exists, because of y'all. They let y'all out in clusters of people on trains. That's what the word slavery come from. Y'all came through Reckless Island with no passports, and came on this land and act like you been here. So laugh at that. Laugh about the white slavery act called the Mann Act. Laugh at that. Laugh about when you die, you turn black for your sins. Laugh at that. You got to be buried before 3 days or you over with. Your melanin kick in when you die. Laugh at how you allergic to the one planet you say is yours. You could get skin cancer from it. Laugh at that. Don't come up in here playing with me, because I'm the wrong one. then when you get old, you start looking like your barbarian ancestors. Swole face. You get about 30, you look like you 60. It's a few of you keep this pure look, and it's because a bunch of plastic surgery. You do a bunch of plastic surgery so your husbands won't look at your daughters. Don't play with me. Don't come in here laughing about a child that's unalive. What's wrong with you? Let me see what this person is. I can block.
That's why the fake ass friend said Nolan was. That's past tense. He didn't say, oh, Nolan is a good, that's my buddy, that's my brother. Nolan was.
Knew he was gone. Is this the reason why they needed his records? Because he was unrecognizable? Which of the parents helped those kids?
Which of the parents helped those kids? Because I know you guys are thinking, it's just the adult kids were the only ones. Oh, no, baby. Because when I look back at, when I was young, there would be no way that I would have been able to pull this off. They were helped. And this is why it's a massive cover-up. Because to prosecute them means prosecuting their mammy, okay? Means prosecuting their father, who's, we got doctors, we got judges.
And that's Debbie, that she's been on my live, who thinks something is fucking funny, you old turd. You the reason why that we have to still say racism. People like you, Debbie. You're the reason why that we have to do this over and over thing. Because y'all theories, y'all pass this stuff on from one child to another. But you know what's funny? A lot of these kids are breaking away from that. You know that, right? They don't care what you think. They don't want this. The younger generation don't want this. This you old motherfuckers. These are you old motherfuckers that is mad because you were hammered on the head when you were older. And then y'all put that on black women like black women had to, like we went through that. Man, come on, bro. Come on, man. Stop playing the game. You laughing. You old, though. And I know you way older than me. So I know that you saw your grandfather and your great-grandfather not o'clock your fucking mama and grandmother. And you got the nerve to laugh? Girl, please. Fuck with me.
We got people that work at school districts, and they're protecting them. Now, I want to show you guys something else, because as we get more and more information and we search for more and more information, what you guys tend to do is lose the most valuable information that you heard in the beginning, because I'm doing the same thing. As I search for information, I go back and look at the old information and I say, damn, I missed that.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. This is not how I wanted the world to meet my son, but here we are. So, as you know, I'm Christine Wells-Wamsley. I am Nolan Wells' mom.
Before we get into this, something else I need to really study. I'm going to have to pray, because I don't like evil and evil people. This could have been some kind of ritualistic, sick, demonic stuff. It could very well have been, because I know, in a normal society, we tend to think that everybody is good people. I have come to learn that they are absolutely not. So if you think that these ritualistic stuff don't happen, think again.
And Nolan is the kindest soul. He never met a stranger. He loved everybody. He didn't care if you were black, white, purple, green.
And again, I'm sick of these old white motherfuckers. Y'all, it's time for y'all to go. Go back to wherever you came from, the labs, the carnivals, the incubators. Like the younger generation don't want this. It's time for y'all to go back with that barbarian behavior, trying to control something. And the bad part about it, you're slaves your damn self. You ain't got shit. They didn't make y'all into something better. They didn't put y'all in Beverly Hills and nice homes. I dare you. The ones that does this stuff, they sons go get a black woman. They rebel when they about 18. We're really about 16, 15 years old. They go get a black woman. Everything you do, you will see it, baby girl. It's fucking funny about a child, and we are trying to just, give our opinion about something and sit our lights on whatever that is. The hell is wrong with you? It's something wrong with y'all. Don't come on here with none of that, lady. Y'all, they be hiding behind their own misery. They hide behind their own effing misery. Majority of them. Like, I don't like that. Don't come. The young generation don't want no problems with none of that. The young generation going around doing what they like to do, who they want to be with, and how they want to be with it. It's you old motherfuckers. And it may have been a ritual of the new generation of KK. Man, get up out of here. Guess what? We're on Mississippi Neck. And you old motherfuckers, it's time for y'all to go. It's time for y'all to go. Y'all been holding on to nothing for a very long time. Yo, listen. Real white folks talk about y'all like dogs. They call y'all white niggas. Y'all be cheerleading for what? They don't like you either. That's why when y'all came in, y'all was at the bottom of the boat. There were 3 layers on those train liners. Y'all was at the bottom of the barrel, dirty. Don't play with me. I will tell your story. Y'all, slavery, the word slavery came from the orphan train. When they brought their ass here, they put them in the communities because nobody wanted, because they were incubators. They created them. These people come from Africa. These are Russians. $5 Indians, you call them $5 Indians. They nothing but Russians. Go look, y'all. Go look at it. They paid $5 for people named that was dead, and they used those people's names and last names, lying like, oh, they changed your last. No, they did not. My grandfather changed our last name. Y'all got to stop lying about this history stuff, because all of it is a lie. You brought your ass in here and disturbed my peace. I'm gonna see what Dr. Omar got to say, because he kind of get on my damn nerves sometimes. All right, let's see what he got to say.
Of 1776. So why are we on White Devil Horns Island anyway, celebrating George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton and all these other white supremacists and slave masters? Why are we even celebrating them anyway? Nolan shouldn't have been out there. Javon shouldn't have been out there. No black person should have been celebrating the 4th of July, period.
Well, Javon say his white side allegedly done more for him than his black side. And maybe they done stuff more for you than your black side because your white side was racist. And the man ain't want to deal with it. Probably, more than likely.
We would be enslaved for almost another century after America got her independence. So what are we celebrating for? To celebrate.
I got to understand where he come from, because I'm from Louisiana and we was not slaves. I come from the Creole Maroons and we ran the Mississippi. We even conquered Baton Rouge, right? And any place that doesn't say Florida. So they need to stop all that lying. We were not slaves. they had like no more than like 200 people that came here as indigent servants. Slavery comes again from the orphan train, where they had those kids on there working in mines and stuff as slaves. And these coon leaders adopted the word slavery from a whole nother ethnic background.
The 4th of July as an African is to celebrate the enslavement of your ancestors and the freedom of your slave masters. It makes no sense. Now, with that being said, I'm not blaming Nolan in any way, shape, form, or fashion for his loss of life. I'm just simply saying he should have been out there. Now let's take a closer look at this, Art. According to what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, and what I've read, Nolan, Warren, Wyatt, and Trayson left for Horn Island the morning of July 4th. According to Warren's own words that he offered during an interview with Officer B.T. Coon, that's Coon as in C-U-N-E, Coon as in K-H-E-W-N, Coon as in K-U-H-N, Coon as in C-O-N-N. So Warren did a sit-down with Officer B.T. Coon. And as we all know, B.T. Coon is white YouTube's pet monkey. He's white YouTube's pet monkey. So Warren sat down for an interview with white YouTube's pet monkey. And he said that they left for Horns Island the morning of July the 4th, and that it was approximately 30 of them spread across 3 boats. Approximately 30 youth spread across 3 boats. They all went to Horn Island together. They arrived at approximately 11:30. So they left around 9-ish, 8, 9-ish, whatever the case may be. They left the morning of July 4th. They arrived on White Devil's Horn Island at about 11:30. So 3 boats, 30 youth, they went together. I'm not clear on whether the 3 boats came back together or not. That's another question that I have, Art. Did they come back together the same way they left together? Because I'm treating all 30 of those white youth and all 3 of those ships as crime scenes and as suspects. All 3 ships are potential crime scenes. All 3 boats are potential crime scenes, and all 30 youth are potential suspects. I don't know why Jackson County Sheriff Ledbetter or Jackson County District Attorney Mulrath, I don't know why they decided to separate the boat that Nolan was on, Warren's boat. I don't know why they separated that boat from the other 2 for purposes of investigation and analysis, because those 3 boats operated as a team. And since they went out there as a team, and it hasn't been made clear to me whether or not they came back together as a team, all 30 white youth and all 3 boats should have been part of this investigation, not just the 1 boat. That is my first big issue with this case. Who decided to separate the other 2 boats and the other 20 or so youth? I got a problem with that, Art, because according to the Cajun Navy, they have no GPS information on the other 2 boats, Art. They have no GPS information on the other 2 boats. Now let's get into this. According to Warren and Nolan's other so-called white friends, they decided to leave the island around 4:30. So they were roughly on White Devil's Horn Island from 11:30 to 4:30. That is about 5 hours. About 5 hours. Now, one question that has to be asked, Art, why did y'all leave so soon? Because they party on Horn Island all day long. Y'all didn't leave at sunset. Y'all didn't leave at sundown. Y'all left after only being there 5 hours. That's a little suspicious, Art. And I haven't heard anybody ask any of them, why did y'all decide to leave after only being there for 5 hours? Did y'all plan to only be on White Devil's Horn Island for 5 hours? Why did y'all leave at that time? But we'll deal with that later. So then let's listen to Javon, Nolan's other best friend. Now, another problem I got with this whole story, Art, is Nolan allegedly had too many best friends. I'm trying to find out, how does Nolan have so many best friends? And why did all of these so-called best friends leave their best friend on White Devil's Horn Island without his cell phone and keys? I'm trying to figure this out. So Javon claims he's Nolan's best friend. Warren claims he's Nolan's best friend. And Trayston allegedly claims that he's Warren's best friend. So did Warren have 3 best friends? Excuse me. Did Nolan have 3 best friends? Did Nolan have 13 best friends? Did Nolan have 30 best friends? Because if Javon is the best friend of Nolan, and if Warren is the best friend of Nolan, and if Trayston is the best friend of Nolan, exactly how many best friends did Nolan have? Are y'all making this up? Who did Nolan tell Warren was his best friend? Who did Nolan ever tell Trayston was his best friend? I'm not going to question Javon, because he's a brother. And I do believe that there's a strong chance that they may have been best friends. And I say that not only because Javon is a brother, Art, but I also felt that Javon, through the investigation team and alley-oop, with some of the answers that he gave on TMZ. Some of Javon's answers, in my opinion, kind of made it clear to me he actually cared about Nolan. He actually cared about Nolan. I believe Javon actually cared about Nolan. And because of that, I'm willing to say that Javon may have actually been Nolan's best friend. I wish somebody would have asked Javon, Art, to your knowledge, has Nolan ever called Warren his best friend? Has Nolan ever called Trayston his best friend? To your knowledge, Javon, has Nolan ever told you that Warren and Trayston were best friends of his? Because, Art, I'm having a problem with this three best friend narrative. Okay? I used to be 18 years old. You might have one best friend. You may have 2. Don't get me wrong. If you all hang in a pack, you could have 3 best friends. But according to Javon's own words, Art, he didn't really hang around with them other guys too much. That's what I allegedly thought I heard him say. He didn't hang around with them guys too much. So if you got 2 or 3 or 4 best friends, you guys normally travel as a group. Javon seemed like he kind of spent most of his time with Nolan alone, just the 2 of them, not with Trayston and Warren. Although he knew them, it didn't appear that he hung out with them on the regular. So how could they all then be best friends? It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying it's unlikely. So, according to Javon, Art, he saw Nolan at 3:40 on the island. According to Javon, what I heard him say to TMZ allegedly was that he had another friend who was involved in an altercation, and that he left Nolan at about 3:40 to go check on his buddy, because according to Javon, his buddy was on another ship, and the parents of whomever on this other ship were trying to get him off the island because he was crashing out. He never said who this friend was. He never exactly told us what happened, but he said, I left at 3:40 to go check on my friend on another boat because, quote unquote, well, these are not his words, I'm paraphrasing, he was kind of wilding out, crashing out, and he needed to help calm him down. I'm paraphrasing. He said when he got back, Nolan was nowhere to be found, and I'm paraphrasing. And Nolan's boat that he came on, Warren's boat, the so-called Big Daddy, the 22-foot Triton, had already left the scene. So according to Javon, I left Nolan at 3:40 to go deal with another situation. I came back, he was gone. According to Katie, the white girl who Nolan's white best friends are trying to use as an alibi in this situation. Okay, because they claim, and Warren said the same thing to Officer B.T. Coon when he spoke with him. They claim that Nolan told them, I'm going to hang back on this island and talk to Katie. You guys go ahead and I'll get back however I get back. Again, I'm paraphrasing. But guess what? We learned through Katie's sister that Katie said she has no knowledge of Nolan ever saying that. In fact, Katie said, Art, that Nolan told her, I got to get ready to head back to the boat because my friends are leaving soon. That don't sound like somebody who plans on staying, Art. Okay? According to her sister, Katie said Nolan told Katie, it's time for me to head back to the boat because my friends are going to be leaving soon. As far as I'm concerned, Art, Javon and Katie both threw us an alley-oop. Javon and Katie are throwing Sheriff Ledbetter of Jackson County an alley-oop because neither one of them are corroborating the story of Nolan's white friends on that boat. In fact, Javon said, this ain't adding up. Javon said, it's not like Nolan to say, you guys go ahead and leave me on this island and I'm just going to stay back to talk to this girl who I barely know. According to Javon, it don't make no sense. Javon ain't stupid, Art. That's his friend. He know damn well Nolan didn't tell them that he was going to stay back on that ship. And then Katie, I'm going to give a little bit of respect to Katie on this situation. Because as a white girl, Art, for her to come out and say that is not what happened, for her to come out and say that Nolan told me I got to get back to the boat because my friends are leaving, for her to say that, Art, that took a little bit of courage and honesty. That took a little bit of integrity. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to give her too much credit because she is trying to clear her name. What Katie is basically doing, Art, is she's saying, listen, y'all did whatever y'all did to Nolan, but you're not going to add me to the narrative. I'm not serving as nobody's alibi. I'm not helping nobody get out of this situation. You're not going to use me as a decoy, but I still appreciate Katie speaking up for Nolan, Art, because she didn't have to do it. Although she's trying to protect herself and stay out of the investigation, I appreciate Katie for letting the world know Nolan told me I got to head back to the boat because my friends are getting ready to leave. Now, according to Katie, Art, she spoke to Nolan sometime between 3 and 4:30. Now, her window appears to be wider than everybody else's window. So Javon's window is much smaller. He said, I saw him at 3:40, went to deal with another situation. By the time I came back, they were gone. Katie said, I spoke with him between 3 and 4:30. And I allege, Art, one of the reasons that Katie is making her window so wide is she's trying to leave a little bit of wiggle room for Warren and them to get their story straight, allegedly. I think Katie trying to leave a little bit of wiggle room for Warren and them to get their story straight, Art. Now, according to our sister Christine, and my heart goes out to Sister Christine, Nolan's mother. My heart deeply, deeply goes out to you, Queen. According to Christine, Art, she heard from a coach who ran into Nolan on the island as well. And according to the coach, he spoke to Nolan between 2:30 and 3:30. So Javon didn't see him after 3:40. The coach spoke to him sometime between 2:30 and 3:30. And Katie said her conversation with Nolan was between 3 and 4:30. So you know what that means, Art? We can pretty much digest, conclude that Nolan was likely to have been unalived, Art, sometime within the hour of 3:30 to 4:30. I'm going to insinuate that Nolan's life was taken because I do not believe he accidentally drowned. If he drowned, he was forcibly drowned, and we'll get to that in a minute. If Nolan drowned, he was forcibly drowned. He did not accidentally drown. He was a great swimmer. Miss me with the nonsense. That boy did not drown. If he drowned, it was by force. So again, Art, all three of these people, arguably the last three to see him alive, except for those who took his life, Katie, the coach, and Javon, are arguably the last three people to see Nolan alive, except for those who took his life on that boat, allegedly. That's my position. So they're all basically cutting off around 3:30, Art. Remember, they made the call for the emergency CTO at 4 o'clock. Javon said he cut out 3:40. The coach, 3:30. They made the call at 4 o'clock. That conversation we heard, the CTO call, which we're going to talk about in a minute, that took place at 4. It sounded like there was some struggling going on in the background. Nolan could have been getting unalived while they were making the call, Art. Nolan could have been getting unalived while they were making the call. Nolan could have been getting choked out while they was on the phone with Cito. So again, Art, my position is Nolan lost his life somewhere within the hour of 3:30 to 4:30. Now, before we go any further, Art, I need Ben Crump investigation team and Sheriff Ledbetter's investigation team to have a conversation with Javon, because according to Javon's statements on TMZ, the police never spoke to him. And I have serious concerns with the manner in which this investigation has been carried out so far, Art. I have very serious concerns with the manner in which this investigation has been carried out so far. So anyway, Javon said police never spoke with him. Why? We need a conversation with Javon, not because I think he's a suspect. I believe Javon is innocent, but we need to find out what he knows. That's number one. We also need a conversation, Art, with the coach. Who is this coach that Sister Christine said contacted her and told her he had a conversation with Nolan on the island between 2:30 and 3:30? We need to find out what he knows. And according to Katie's sister, she is already cooperating with the authorities. But here's why those three got to be spoken to, Art. Not only so we find out what they know, Art, but did they see each other during their conversation with Nolan? Because Javon, if you was talking to Nolan and left him at 3:40, and if Katie was talking to Nolan sometime between 3 and 4:30, and if the coach was talking to Nolan between 3:30 and 4:30, Art, at least two of you should have ran into each other. Did the coach see Javon? Did Javon see the coach? Did the coach see Katie? Did Katie see the coach? Did Katie see Javon? Did the coach see Katie? Art, if all three of them are saying they saw Nolan.
And y'all, the biggest question is, when the coach saw him, who the hell he was with? Everybody keeps saying they saw Nolan, right? But when they saw Nolan, who was he with?
For the last time, roughly within the same hour and a half, Art, did y'all run into each other? Let me tell you why I'm asking this question, Art. And I'm not throwing no shade at my brother Javon. I like Javon. I'm not throwing no shade at Miss Katie McCormick. I don't know her. I'm not throwing no shade at the coach, Art. But the reason I need to know why all y'all put y'all time within the same frame, and you may have not possibly seen one another, Art, are you guys keeping yourself out of the window of witnessing this crime by saying you didn't see him after 3:30? I want you to follow what I'm saying here, Art. It's kind of interesting that they all saw him last at 3:30. Not after 3:30. Javon 3:40, roughly 3:30. My point is for all three of them to have the same exact time. If they did not see each other at all during these conversations with Nolan, are they pushing up the window of time during which they saw Nolan so they cannot be included in this investigation as a witness to a crime? In other words, Art, I don't think Javon had nothing to do with it. I know he didn't. But is he saying he saw Nolan a little earlier than he saw him so he can't be pulled into the investigation? I don't think Katie had nothing to do with the crime, but it's Katie putting her conversation with Nolan a little earlier than it actually took place to make sure she can't be dragged into the investigation as a witness to a crime. Is it possible that the coach is putting his conversation with Nolan earlier than what it was, Art, to make sure he cannot get dragged into the investigation? I don't think they had anything to do with it, but they could have been a witness to a homicide, Art. They could have been witness to a homicide. If they did not see each other, if none of those three people, the coach, Javon, and Katie, if they did not see each other at all talking to Nolan, if none of them saw each other talking to Nolan, at least two of them are lying about the time they last saw Nolan. Are you following me, Art? All I'm saying is I have my suspicions as to whether or not this convenient 3:30 cutoff window, I have my suspicions that this convenient 3:30 cutoff window may have not actually been the time they saw Nolan. They may have saw Nolan closer to the time he lost his life. Now, stay with me, Art. I want to back up for a minute. And I want to say this to Brother Elmore, Nolan's stepfather. And I want to say this to Coach Tracy, who I believe was one of Nolan's coaches. Brother Elmore, the stepfather, and Coach Tracy, the coach, both said on national television, Art, that they don't think race played a role in this at all. Elmore, Tracy, two dark-skinned black men in Mississippi, and both of them said on national television, I don't think race had anything to do with this case. I am disappointed in Brother Elmore. I am disappointed in Coach Tracy. How dare you help these young people avoid the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. federal hate crimes law, Art, by you saying you don't think this had anything to do with race, Brother Elmore and Coach Tracy. You are helping these white folks avoid federal hate crimes charges. And let me tell you why this is important, Art. Let me tell you why this is important. Under the federal hate crimes law, Matthew Shepard, James Byrd, signed by Barack Obama, 2009. Under the Federal Hate Crimes Act, Art, you can go to jail for life. You can go to jail for life under the Federal Hate Crimes law. So if you can go to jail for life under the Federal Hate Crimes Act, Art, why is Nolan's stepfather and coach telling white folks they don't think it had anything to do with race? I still love my brother Elmore. I still love my brother Coach Tracy. But would y'all please watch what comes out of your mouth during this investigation? Because you are undermining justice for Nolan. I hope you're listening, Brother Elmore. And I hope you're listening, Coach Tracy. You are undermining justice for Nolan by saying you don't think race had anything to do with it. How in the hell do you know? How do you know if race had anything to do with it? How well do you know these young people? It was 30 of them, Art. It was damn near 30 white youth spread across 3 boats. How many of them did Elmore know? How many of them did Coach Tracy know? So how are you going to go on TV and say, I don't think it had anything to do with race? Why are you helping them avoid accountability for what they may have done? I don't know if they did it, Art. You don't know if they did it. They don't know if they did it. And they definitely don't know if it was motivated by race. What they should have said, Art, is what Javon said. And that's why I like the young brother Javon. That's why I like that young brother Javon. His mother, Sister Tashima, shout out to you. You raised a good kid. When TMZ asked Javon if he thought it had anything to do with race, Art, when TMZ asked Javon if he thought this had anything to do with race, he said, what? I don't want to answer that question. I don't want to answer that question. Perfect answer. Perfect answer. Or, Art, they could have said, I don't know. Nolan's stepfather could have said, I don't know if it had anything to do with race. Coach Tracy should have said, I don't know if it had anything to do with race. But to say you don't think it had to do with race when he was the only black boy across 3 ships, are you out of your mind? Why would you say that and help them avoid the Federal Hate Crimes Act? Javon gave a better answer than those 2 black men. Javon, a child, gave a better answer than those 2 black men, Art, when he said, I don't want to answer the question. And shout out to Javon, Art. He's intelligent. You know why? Because by saying, I don't want to answer the question, he answered the question. Of course, race has something to do with it. This is the United States of America. Race has something to do with everything involving black people. The country was built on the backs of black people. It's maintained on black people. We are disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system, overrepresented in the unemployment line, under the poverty line. Of course, everything in this country has to do with race. And I'm disappointed in us, Art, that we are so afraid to call racism what it is, that we literally got people asking us, when a white person takes the life of a black person, do you think it had anything to do with race? When a police officer takes the life or shoots a black person, do you think it had anything to do? What kind of idiotic gaslighting question is this, Art? All white people are racist. All white people are racist. So we can stop asking if it had anything to do with race. If it's black and it's white, it has something to do with race because all white people are racist. That's just how it is. Now let's get back to this. Before we deal with the infamous CETO call, Art, I got a few questions for Warren. I want to deal with that infamous CETO call, Art, and I want to deal with Sister Tashima and Sister Christine's visit to Warren's home to get Nolan's cell phone. I want to deal with them 2 in a minute, but before I go there, I got a couple questions for Warren and his white friends. Nolan's best friend, and Warren even called Nolan his brother, Art. He even called him his brother. He said they spent the night together before they went out to White Devil's Horn Island, Art. The night before, July 3rd, they stayed in the same home. How do you stay in the same home with somebody, Art, and leave them on an island? How do you sleep in the same house with somebody July 3rd and then leave them on an island July 4th? But I got a few questions for Warren. No disrespect. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm not saying he's guilty, but I got a few questions for you, Warren. Since you could sit down and interview with Officer B.T. Coon, I need you to sit down and interview with Dr. Umar Ifatunde. So you can sit down and interview with Officer B.T. Coon, I want you to sit down and interview with Dr. Umar Ifatunde. My first question to Warren, you said that Nolan is a best friend of yours, that he's like a brother. I have a question. If Nolan is your brother and best friend, why did you leave him on that island, especially when you all were drinking? Because somebody put a report out there, Art, that Nolan had been drinking heavily and was intoxicated. Of course, that allegation was dismissed because the coach who contacted Sister Christine confirmed that he spoke to Nolan between 2:30 and 3:30, and Nolan was not intoxicated. So they lied to protect their friends. because white people are always on code, Art. Not a single white person on that island dropped a dime yet. Not one of them. So anyway, Art, they tried to blame it on him being drunk. So he was just a drunk black kid who walked into the water and drowned. That's the narrative they wanted us to swallow. He was just a drunk black kid who walked into the water and drowned. And remember, Art, Sheriff Ledbetter allegedly ruled the case an accidental drowning before he did any investigation. He ruled Nolan's death an accidental drowning before he did any investigation. As far as I'm concerned, that meets the definition of public corruption. As far as I'm concerned, that meets the definition of public corruption. But stand with Warren, Art. Warren, if Nolan is your brother and best friend, why did you leave him on an island without his cell phone and his keys? Why did you take his cell phone and keys back to the mainland? You left him there and took his cell phone and keys back. Can you please explain that to me? What person wants to be on an island without their phone? Help me understand that, Warren. I don't know of an 18-year-old who wants to be anywhere without their phone, Art. They don't want to be in school without their phone. They don't want to be at home without their phone. They don't want to be out of town without their phone. They don't want to be at the mall, the movies, the restaurant. They don't want to be nowhere without their phone, let alone on an island with no way to get off. You left your best friend on an island, your so-called brother. You left him on an island with no way to get off, and you took his phone and his keys. Can you explain that to me, Warren? While you're thinking about it, I got another question for you, Warren, while you're thinking about it. You said at 11 o'clock, you called Miss Christine to see if she heard from her son. Warren said, Art, I called Miss Christine to see if she heard from Nolan. She said she had not heard from Nolan. Can I ask you a question, Warren? If you took his phone, how in the hell was his mother supposed to hear from her son when you have the son's phone? Did you tell Miss Christine that you had her son's phone when you called her? I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't. Think about that, Art. He called the mother and asked her if she heard from her son. But he knows she didn't hear from her son, Art, because he has her son's phone. How can the mother hear from Nolan when you have Nolan's cell phone and you left him on an island? And I bet you didn't tell her you had his phone. Because if she knew you had his phone, Art, she would not have had to use Life 360 to find the phone. If you had his phone and you called her at 11 o'clock to see if Nolan was okay, why didn't you tell Nolan's mom you had his phone? Why did my sister Christine and my sister Tashima have to use Life 360 to find their son's phone? Because you playing games. You playing games. You playing in our face like we stupid. That's what this is. I don't know if he did it, Art, but he damn sure knows who do. I allege and I believe that all 30 of those white kids on all 3 of them boats know exactly which one of them did it, and the rest of them are covering it up. And guess what, Warren? And the rest of you 30 white kids on those 3 boats, let me explain something to you. Federal hate crimes law, you can go to jail for the rest of your life in case nobody didn't tell you. Federal hate crimes law, you can go to jail for the rest of your life in case nobody told you. Guess what? The Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, you can go to jail for up to 30 years. And if Nolan was unalived by more than one person, that constitutes a lynching. That constitutes a lynching. So you can go to jail for up to 30 on the Emmett Till Act. You can go to jail for life on the Matthew Shepard James Byrd Hate Crimes Act. And in the state of Mississippi, Art, if you are an accessory after the fact, not accomplice. Accomplice means you participated in the murder. Accessory means you helped cover it up afterwards. If you are an accessory to the fact, after the fact, Art, you can go to jail for up to 20 years, Mississippi law. So they can go to jail for up to 20 years, Mississippi law, accessory after the fact, you helped to cover up the crime. You can go to jail for 30 years on the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, because more than one of you probably participated in Nolan's unaliving. And under the Matthew Shepard James Berg Federal Hate Crimes Act, Art, they can go to jail for life. And this is why I need Nolan's step pop and coach to watch what comes out of their mouth and stop trying to help these white kids avoid accountability for what they did to Nolan. Because if the tables will turn, white folks are not going to try to help your child avoid any accountability. So stop the cutting. Now, another question I have for Warren. You said you and Nolan been friends since 8th grade. Since 8th grade, Art. But Sister Christine says she don't know none of them kids really, Art. She don't know them white kids. So help me understand how you are Nolan's best friend, friends since 8th grade. You called him your brother. Y'all spent the night together July the 3rd, the morning before y'all went to White Devil's Horn Island, and his mother don't even know who you are. And you said out your own mouth that y'all never hung out at Nolan's house. So how are y'all best friends? I had best friends growing up, Art. My mother knew who they were. Who has a best friend that they mom don't know about? Help me understand that. A best friend and the mom don't know him, it sounds suspicious. Why didn't you tell Miss Christine you had her son's cell phone when you called and asked if she heard from him? Art, as far as I'm concerned, there's probable cause he has something to do with this. Art, I'm holding her son's cell phone. I left him on the island. I took his keys and phone. And I'm on the phone with the mom. I got his phone, but I'm calling his mother at 11 o'clock. Have you heard from your son? And I'm holding her son's cell phone, and I don't even tell her. Art, this ain't making no sense. This ain't making no sense. And I want to know from Sheriff John Ledbetter, Art, Jackson County Sheriff, you don't have probable cause just off of that alone? Somebody calls somebody's mom asking if she heard from him while they have their phone and left them stranded on the island. And if you care so much about Nolan, Art, if he cares so much about Nolan, the so-called white best friend, Art, why did you wait till 11 o'clock? Y'all left the island 4:30. Y'all left the island 4:30. If you care so much about Nolan, why are you not calling his mother until 11 o'clock? It's pitch black outside at 11 o'clock, Art. It's pitch black. It's almost midnight, and you wait till 11 o'clock to call his mom and ask her if she heard from her son, but he's supposed to be your brother and best friend. Listen here, Warren. I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. And then I have a question for his dad, too, Art. I don't know if you know this, but his dad has started an online fundraising platform for Warren and two of his friends. I think they raised $160,000 so far. $160,000. Nobody has been arrested. Nobody has received a warrant. Nobody has been indicted. Nobody has been charged. Art, if you are innocent, why are you raising money online? You ain't been charged with a crime at all. The state of Mississippi is doing everything they can to make sure y'all don't get charged with anything. So why are you raising money online? Why did y'all cancel your social media? Why are y'all lawyering up? They hired Donald Trump's lawyer, Art. One of Donald Trump's lawyers is now the three of their lawyers. If you innocent, what you need Donald Trump's lawyer for? If you're innocent, what you raising $160,000 for? It sounds like y'all getting ready to defend yourselves. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like y'all think the truth is going to get out really, really soon, and y'all want to be prepared for it. Again, Art, I'm not saying he did it, but I definitely believe he knows who do. Now, we're going to get to this call. But before we get to this call, Art, I'm going to ask a question of Benjamin Crump. Attorney Benjamin Crump. I met him twice, Art. I met Benjamin Crump the day before I graduated with my doctorate at an Urban League conference in New Orleans. I presented at a workshop at the Urban League Conference in New Orleans. This is July of 2012. And I flew back to graduate and get my doctorate in clinical psychology. We had lunch. It's a few of us at the table. We had lunch. Okay? This is around the Trayvon era. And then I met Benjamin Crump again at HBCU Delaware State University about 3 or 4 years ago at the Black Farmers Conference that was put on by one of the Black professors there. She invited me to keynote the luncheon, and she switched me out at the last minute for Attorney Benjamin Crump. I understand it was a Black bourgeoisie event. I'm not a member of the Black bourgeoisie. I got switched out. I understand. No harm, no foul. Ben Crump gave a good speech. But here's my question to Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton. Here's my question to Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton, Art. How long are y'all going to wait around before y'all call a spade a spade? How long is Ben Crump and Al Sharpton going to wait around, Art, before they tell the world that they don't think this investigation is being done correctly? How long before Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton demand that the FBI and Department of Justice take over this investigation? Art, it's been over a month and we know nothing. It's been over a month and we know nothing. Now, let me say this, Art. There's several circumstances through which you can demand the FBI come in and take over an investigation. One of them, Art, if there is a suspicion of public corruption or obstruction of justice. The FBI, the Department of Justice, can come in and take over a case on the suspicion of public corruption or obstruction of justice. So you're going to say, Dr. Umar, what evidence do you have of that? First of all, they declared this an accidental drowning before they did any investigation. That's a cover-up. Not only that, Art, they never treated the boat like a crime scene. They never took a look at the other 2 boats. We have no information at all on the other 2 boats. Those 30 white kids should have had their cell phones confiscated, investigated. All their social media should have been investigated. Their homes should have been investigated. They should have all been interrogated. They should have been investigated to see if they or their parents had any connection to any of the white hate groups in the state of Mississippi. None of that was done. They gave the boat back to the owner, Art. They gave the boat back. The boat may have been a crime scene, and they gave it back. Now, according to the Cajun Navy, another question for Ben Crump, Art. According to the Cajun Navy, they offered Ben Crump to put dogs on the boat and let the dogs sniff it out to see if anybody had recently been deceased on that boat or if there had been any blood on that boat. And according to the representative from the Cajun Navy, Ben Crump told him don't do it. So I need Ben Crump, respectfully, I'm not accusing him of nothing, Art, but I need Ben Crump to explain to me why you didn't let them use the dogs to sniff out that boat. Why did you not let them sniff out that boat with them dogs? Did you have your own dogs to sniff out the boat? Because if you didn't, why didn't you let them sniff the boat out with the dogs? The dogs can tell, Art, if somebody had recently lost.
He didn't let him because he don't have the authority to do so. So why they just didn't fucking do it? What the hell are you talking about? Benjamin Crump is a civil lawyer, not a figure to demand subpoenas and all this other stuff to do that. Like, you're talking crazy now. You're talking crazy. He's an attorney. He cannot go to the extent of that. So what you mean why? Because he don't have the authority to do that. That's why.
Lost their life or if blood had been spilled. He said Ben Crump told him no. I need Ben Crump to explain that. I need Sheriff John Ledbetter to explain why the boat wasn't treated as a crime scene, potential crime scene. I need him to explain why all them white kids wasn't arrested and questioned. Because if it was black kids and a white kid went missing, Art, they would have all been arrested and questioned. You know that. They would have all been arrested and questioned. And then let's talk about the autopsy, Art. Let's talk about the autopsy. So the Mississippi State Medical Examiner, they do their autopsy July 7th, right? July 7th. And then Nolan's mother requested an independent autopsy, as she should have. They send Nolan's body to Washington, D.C. When the black medical examiner gets to Nolan's corpse, Art, the throat tissue and the lung tissue is gone. How is he supposed to determine if Nolan died from being choked out or if Nolan died from drowning if he don't have the throat tissue or the lung tissue, Art? How is he supposed to do his job and y'all didn't send the throat tissue or the lung tissue? And nobody has explained yet whether or not the medical examiner in D.C. is ever going to get the throat tissue or the lung tissue. And I personally believe, Art, I personally believe Nolan was deceased before he hit the water. I believe Nolan was deceased before he hit the water. And the reason they held onto the throat tissue and the reason they held onto the lung tissue is they didn't want nobody to know that Nolan was murdered before he hit that water. Just like Emmett Till was murdered before he hit that water. Just like Dr. King's brother, A.D. King, was murdered before he hit that water. Remember, Art, when Dr. King's brother was murdered, Reverend A.D. King, they found him in the swimming pool. They ruled it a drowning. And then one of the paramedics said, what, Art? One of the paramedics who took Dr. King's brother out of the pool, Art, said he didn't have no water in his lungs. The paramedic said he didn't have no water in his lungs, Art. And plus, A.D. King, just like Nolan, A.D. King, just like Nolan, was a great swimmer, Art. Was a great swimmer. They kept them lungs, I believe. They kept the lungs, Art, because they knew that those lungs would have provided evidence of the fact that Nolan may have been deceased before he hit that water. They kept the throat because it may have shown some trauma that Nolan may have gotten choked out. And then you got the red substance around the back of the head that the D.C. medical examiner discussed. We don't know if Nolan got hit in the back of the head. We don't know if the blood simply drained to the back of the head. But here's the thing, Art. They say Nolan was found face down in the water. Nolan was found face down in the water, Art. Not only that, Nolan was transported face down to Washington, D.C. So guess what, Art? I have my doubts as to whether or not the red, which is probably blood, in the back of the head, the subcutaneous red area, Art, I don't think that has anything to do with the blood draining to the back. You want to know why? Because he was found floating on his face. And he was sent to Washington, D.C. on his face. So the blood couldn't have went backwards, Art. I believe Nolan got hit in the back of the head, and it was that hit that cost him his life. It was that hit that cost him his life. It was that hit that cost him his life. Now, with that being said, Art, I want to go to Sister Tashima and Sister Christine going over to Warren's home, allegedly, to get Nolan's phone. So, Sister Christine reported Nolan missing around 12:22 p.m. on the 4th. Sometime after that, her and Sister Tashima, Javon's mom, used Light 360 Art, and they tracked the phone to Warren's home. I believe it was Warren's home. Don't hold me to that. I believe it. No, I think it was one of the friends' home, lady friend's home. I think Warren said they were swimming at a lady friend's home. Whoever house it was one of them kids who was out there on White Devil Horns Island. So they tracked the phone to his house, Art. And Sister Tashima said when they opened up the door, the house was dark. You know why the house was dark, Art? They turned the lights off so they wouldn't recognize nobody's face. They turned, when they saw Nolan's mom is outside, this is what I believe happened. This is what I'm gonna let. Nolan's mother and Javon's mother are outside. How did they know where we are? Turn the lights off, because they are not going to leave until we open this door. They turned the lights off, Art, so they could hide. They didn't know that Nolan had Life 360 on that phone. They didn't know that Nolan had Life 360. Now, Sister Tashima said, Art, it took them 15 minutes to bring the phone. Art, she said it took them 15 minutes. You know why? Because they was deleting his Snapchat accounts. That's why, Art. It took them 15 minutes to bring the phone because they were deleting Nolan's Snapchat account. And they also needed to make sure they had their story straight in case Sister Christine and Sister Tashima had any more questions, Art. That's what was going on. But let me say this to Sister Christine and Sister Tashima. My beautiful African sisters, don't you ever again in your life go to a home at that time of night by yourself without no men. Brother Elmore should have been with y'all. You are in Mississippi. You don't know who would have been in that house. You don't know what type of racist rednecks could have came out there and attacked you guys, and y'all could have ended up missing just like Nolan. And once again, they would have said they never saw y'all. And once again, they would have said that they never saw y'all. So please don't do that again. I know you was looking for your son. I know you was helping your girlfriend look for her son. But don't y'all ever pull up at no white people's house you don't know after midnight. Don't you do that no more, ladies. Bring a couple alpha males with you. Bring Brother Elmore with you next time. But this is what I wish they would have done, Art. Let me tell you what I wish they would have done. When Sister Tashima and Sister Christine got to that house, Art, I wish they would not have told them they knew the phone was in there. Stay with me, Art. I wish they would have not told them they knew the phone. They should have played it off, Art. They should have said, we want to know if anybody has seen Nolan. We haven't heard from him since he went with y'all to White Devil's Horn Island. And they would have said, we ain't heard from him, Art. And then I would have said, do you know if Nolan had his phone with him? I've been calling my son all day. He's not picking up. Do you know if he had his phone? And if they would have said no, Art, if they would have said, we don't know if he had his phone or not, you know what I would have done? I would have called the police and I would have told the police, Art, my son is missing. He went to White Devil's Horn Island with these white kids in his house. They have his phone. They don't know. I know they.
So you're going to tell the same people that you saying that is hiding evidence these things. Girl, boy, stop being dramatic.
Have his phone. And they just lied to my face and told me that they don't know where the phone is, and the phone is right in there with them. I believe that they are suspects in my son's disappearance, and I want them all arrested. That's what I wish they would have done, Art. I wish they didn't tell them they knew the phone was in there. I wish they would have acted like they didn't know if the phone was in there and just asked them if they saw the phone. And once those white kids lied, I would have called the police because they never thought anybody was coming for Nolan's phone and keys. They never thought anyone was coming for Nolan's phone and keys because they didn't know Sister Christine had Life 360 on that phone, Art. They did not know that. And I think it is so disrespectful, Art, so racist and so bigoted that white people are filing false reports on Sister Christine's nursing license, Art. She now got to go before the nursing board in Mississippi, Art. Nolan's mother, still grieving the death of her son, she got to go and defend her credentials because white folks are mad that she's demanding justice for her son. This sounds just like Mamie Till Mobley, Emmett Till's mother. They did the same thing to Emmett Till, Art. After they assassinated Emmett Till, they harassed his mother. They sent her all type of threatening phone calls, letters, notices. Here we are, Art. 61 years later, they doing the same thing to Nolan Wells' mom. For black people who think white people have changed, Art, it's time to wake up and smell the coffee. They are their ancestors, Art. They are their ancestors. They might be worse. They are their ancestors. And since they are their ancestors, we need to be our ancestors. Now, let's talk about the infamous Cito call, Art. So again, Javon sees Nolan at 3:40. The coach sees Nolan between 2:30 and 3:30. Katie sees Nolan between 3 and 4:30. I already told you I believe Nolan was unalived between 3:30 and 4:30. Now, our sister, what was her name? Jacqueline Brentley or something. Jeanette Brentley, Jacqueline Brentley. Forgive me, sister, for mispronouncing your name. But our sister, who is an audio engineer, Art, she went through the laborious process of cleaning up the background conversation during the infamous Cito call. She cleaned up the background audio during the infamous Cito call, Art. And during the infamous Cito call, Art, according to her cleanup, it sounds like they were trying to clean up an unaliving of Nolan Wells. You hear people saying things like, is he still alive? Did you unalive him? Is he okay? People are shocked, asking questions. Is he still breathing? If that tape gets corroborated, all the white young folks on those 3 boats need to go to jail, Art. They need to be charged, all of them. Whether you committed the crime, whether you was an accomplice to the crime, whether you was an accessory to the crime. Whether you committed the crime, first-degree murder, whether you was an accomplice to the crime, you helped them carry it out, whether you was an accessory to the crime, you helped them plan it, or you helped them cover it up, Art, because I'm having problems. I'm having problems with this investigation. It is too lax. It is too soft. And my question to Ben Crump and Al Sharpton, how long before y'all going to demand that the federal Department of Justice take over the investigation, Art? As I was saying earlier, you can demand the feds to take over the investigation, Art, if there is concern about public corruption and obstruction of justice. One of the boys' mom or stepmom, and I think it's Warren, allegedly, one of the boys' mothers or stepmothers is a Chancery Court judge. Another one of the children's parents is allegedly tied to the FBI. So, Art, if their parents are tied up in the Mississippi state power structure, if these children's parents are tied up in the Mississippi state power structure, you know damn well Mississippi is not trying to find any of those kids guilty of anything. You know that. Mississippi does not have a history of helping black people find justice against white people. That is not the history of Mississippi. It ain't the history of Arkansas. It ain't the history of Texas. It ain't the history of Louisiana. It ain't the history of South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, or none of those states. So why isn't Ben Crump and Al Sharpton calling for a federal investigation? That's number one. Number two, Art, guess what? Horns Island is federal land. Horns Island is federal land, Art. If Horns Island is federal land, Art, why are we not demanding that the feds do the investigation and not Sheriff Ledbetter? The island is federal land, Art. It's federal land. Why aren't the feds carrying out the investigation? That's the second reason they should be involved. The third reason they should be involved, Art, is there's a strong likelihood that this was a federal hate crime and a lynching. Very strong likelihood that this was Nolan Wells' death is very likely to have been a federal hate crime, and it is very likely to have been a federal lynching, meaning more than one person participated in the racially motivated crime. So I just gave you 3 reasons why the feds should be investigating this case and not the sheriff's office. Why is Ben Crump and Al Sharpton dragging their feet? Benjamin Crump, you need to have a street march. You need to bring all of the black militia groups to Mississippi, and we need to march on Mississippi. Your approach to this investigation is too humble, it is too docile, it is too meek, it is too soft. You are dealing with Mississippi, and you have not activated any street protests. Sister Christine and Brother Nolan are not going to get justice, Art. Sister Christine and Brother Nolan Wells are not going to get justice, Art, if Benjamin Crump doesn't activate a street activism campaign. It is time for Ben Crump and Al Sharpton to activate a street activism campaign. And let me say this, Art. Al Sharpton is about to have another march on Washington. For what? For what? He's going to commemorate the Dr. King 1963 March on Washington. He's been doing it almost every year. But Art, it's an empty symbol. Al Sharpton, listen to me, sir. You don't need to march on D.C. We don't need another empty, meaningless Democratic Party-sponsored march in Washington, D.C. We need you to switch that march, Art. Al Sharpton, if he cares about justice for Black Mississippi, if Al Sharpton cares about justice for Black Mississippi, Art, he will switch the march from D.C. to Mississippi. Al Sharpton needs to switch the march from Washington, D.C. to Mississippi. And it should be 4 days, Art. It should be 4 days, Art. We should march in Senatobia, Mississippi one day for baby Cohen, who was shot and murdered by the police in the Walmart parking lot. We got to march for baby Cohen, who was shot by the police in Senatobia. We have to march in Cleveland, Mississippi for our brother Trey Reed, who was unalived September 15th, 2025, hanging from a tree on Delta State University campus in Cleveland, Mississippi, September 15th, 2025. So we need to march in Cleveland, Mississippi. We need to march in Senatobia, Mississippi. We need to march in Jackson, Mississippi, because what just happened in Jackson on Monday, Art? A Black woman, 28, 29 years old, Tasia Fortune, was found hanging from a tree. Monday, Art, 4 days ago, a Black woman was found hanging from a tree in Jackson, Mississippi. And check this out, Art. They said her corpse, her body, had been hanging from the tree for 3 to 4 days, Art. 3 to 4 days, her body was hanging. It gets worse, Art. It gets worse. They said they had to use a ladder. They had to use a ladder to go up on the tree and get our sister Tasia down. And guess what the Mississippi State Medical Examiner ruled it, Art? Guess what she ruled it? The same thing she ruled Trey Reed's death as: suicide. Let me ask you a question, Art. How many Black people you know hang themselves from trees? I don't know no Black person who have ever taken their life by hanging themselves from a tree. In fact, it's almost impossible to hang yourself from a tree. In fact, Black people have been hung from trees by white people for over 200 years. So you mean to tell me the very method that has been used to take our lives at the hands of white people, we are now taking the method ourselves, Art? We are now taking the method ourselves, Art, and we're going to hang ourselves with a noose the same way white people used to hang our ancestors? Who does that make sense to? That don't make no damn sense. So now all of a sudden, when Black people want to take their life, we're going to go outside, get a noose, and hang ourselves suspended from a tree. That's nonsense. And the Mississippi State Medical Examiner, Art, every time a Black person is found hanging in Mississippi, she wants to rule it a suicide. You know why, Art? If you rule it a suicide, you don't have to investigate. If you rule it a suicide, you can close the case and you don't have to investigate. So Ben Crump and Al Sharpton need to turn up the heat under Sheriff Ledbetter's office. They need to turn up the heat under District Attorney Mulrath's office, because they are dragging their feet. They are not taking this investigation seriously. It is too quiet. We don't know anything. Sister Christine don't know anything after 30 days, and Ben Crump and Al Sharpton need to go to the streets. Since you like to march every year in Washington, D.C., Al Sharpton, why don't you bring your behind to Mississippi and march? We need to march in Senatobia. We need to march in Cleveland, Mississippi. We need to march in Jackson for Sister Tasia Fortune. And we need to march in Ocean Springs for Brother Nolan Wells. And check this out, Art. The Attorney General said they're going to keep the toxicology and the autopsy report under seal. They're going to keep the toxicology and the autopsy under seal, Art, until the grand jury gets to see it. A grand jury is going to decide whether or not anybody's going to get charged with a crime, Art. And I have a big problem with that, Art. That's what happened with Karmelo Anthony. That's what happened with Karmelo Anthony. A grand jury proceeding is a relatively secret process, Art. You don't even know who's on the grand jury, Art. You don't even know who's a group of secret white people. A group of secret white people are going to decide if any of those 30 white kids on those 3 boats should be charged with a crime in the death of Nolan Wells. And we won't even know who they are, and we won't even know how they came to their decision, Art. We won't even know who the grand jury is, and we won't even know how the grand jury came to their decision. What is Ben Crump ready to do? What is Al Sharpton ready to do if the grand jury returns no indictments on anybody at all for the death of Nolan Wells? Will Benjamin Crump be ready to march then, Art? Will Al Sharpton be ready to march in Mississippi then? If the grand jury says this was an accidental drowning, case is closed, no indictments, what is Ben Crump and Al Sharpton going to do? Because right now, and I respect them both, Art, but right now, the way this case is being handled, they are too docile, they are too meek, they are too humble, and they are too soft. We need some street action. We need some street protests. We need some street marches. We need to raise up the temperature in Mississippi, Art. That's what we need to do.
My question is, why are you saying we need to march? Why? You have laws that you can go sue every state. You have, y'all, we have laws to go do. Like, why are we marching? You want to turn the temperature up because you want us in the streets. We're not doing that, buddy. We're not doing that. Legislation can be passed. We can also go and file lawsuits for Black America when it comes down to stuff like this. We can file motions and lawsuits against grand juries to remove this shit from being happening. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. We can stop a lot of stuff. The power is in the people, and that's that. He's saying we got to apply the pressure. We are. But we're not doing it the way they do it. Because going in the streets bring more drama, policing, arrest, and everything else. Civil, someone may get hurt or anything. So what are we going in the streets for? You know, no offense to Nolan's mom, but we as people, women, biracial, and everything has to decide on how we're going to raise our kids now. We have to set the tone as well of where our children are being housed in school. You know what I mean? We have to start setting a tone like this is a revolving door of things that happen when you're in privileged areas and around privileged people. You know what I mean? Like, not saying the boys did anything, but this is a revolving door of things happening. Everybody go home, but the Black boy are alive. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying to you guys, that's on you guys. You know what you think, but I don't think that you should be going on those streets yelling nothing. He's smart enough. He knows better. You're trying to incite something. That's what you're doing. You're not going to do it. And then let's talk about ancestors. Stop calling us slaves, buddy. Stop calling us slaves. We were not slaves here. And that's that. Like I said, I'm from Louisiana. We were Creole Maroons. That's that. We were not slaves. There was a handful of slaves that came here. Y'all got to go start reading stuff for yourself and stop letting y'all leaders tell y'all all these lies. Our life is a lie, and that's just that. What they did was black people help erase, wanted to lead, wanted a big mass majority of black Americans to be oppressed. Let me tell you something. We're Africans. Okay, one time we were minorities. We were considered minorities. One time we were Negroes. One time we were mulattoes. One we were swarthy looking and all type of other stuff. Y'all holler Moors. Moors is not even an ethnic background. Y'all need to stop hollering shit that don't make sense no more. To put yourself in these rooms with places that it doesn't make sense. At the end of the day, we're not marching. Now, if y'all want to get together, organize some stuff, I'm with that type of shit. You know what I mean? I'm organizing stuff as we speak right now, but I'm not gonna let. We have to not tell them until like they don't tell us. They just go file motions and sue to remove things that we get. So it's on y'all. Everybody gets stuff with Black America.
This is the state that unalived Medgar Evans. This is the state that lynched Emmett Till. This is the state that took the life of baby Cohen. This is the state that lynched Tasia Fortune. This is the state that lynched Trey Reed. This is Mississippi, the state that tried to lynch Fannie Lou Hamer. The state that tried to lynch Ida B. Wells. When are we going to wake up and smell the coffee? Now, let's get to the infamous call, Art, and I'm going to wrap this up. Let me get to the infamous call, and I'm going to wrap this up. They called the Cito company at 4 o'clock. We already talked about the background noise that the audio engineer, our beautiful black sister Jeanette Brantley cleaned up. Sounds very suspicious, Art. It sounds like they may have been in the act of unaliving Nolan Wells when they made the call. It sounds like they may have been in the act of unaliving Nolan Wells when they made the call, Art. Allegedly. And guess what, Art? That would make perfect sense. You want to know why? Because the call was bogus. Nothing was wrong with that shit. This is my allegations. This is my belief and my allegations, and I'm standing on it. Nothing was wrong with the boat, Art, and I'm going to explain to you how we know this. Nothing was wrong with that boat. They made that call because they needed an alibi, Art. They needed an alibi. So if Nolan Wells, when Nolan's body was found, Art, if they were able to determine the time of death, when Nolan's body was found, and if they were able to determine the time of death, they say, wait a minute. Nolan was unalived at 4 o'clock. Guess what, Art? They could say our boat was sinking at 4 o'clock and we was on the phone with Cito. The phone call was an alibi, Art. The phone call was a decoy. The phone call was a bait and switch. There was nothing wrong with that boat, Art. So listen, we know that Mississippi is going to find all the audio engineers they can find, Art. We know that Mississippi is going to find all the audio engineers that they can find, Art, to try to say that the background noise cannot be corroborated or verified. You know they're going to say that. They're going to say we can't use the background noise. It's too much going on. We don't care what Sister Jeanette Brantley had to say. We don't care what y'all conspiracy theorists got to say. We had our own FBI audio engineers listen to it, and they can't make out the conversation. I believe it says what Sister Jeanette Brantley says it says. I believe it, Art. It makes perfect sense. They called at the time that they were unaliving him to have an alibi and an excuse. But guess what, Art? Even if they throw out the background noise, I believe we still have probable cause to arrest all 30 of those white kids. And I'm going to tell you why, Art. Let's listen to the conversation, Art. Let's listen to the conversation. He calls the operator on Cito. The operator says, how can I help you? And I'm paraphrasing. He says, our boat is sinking and we need a tow. She says, how much water are you in? He says we're in 17 feet of water. No. We in 31 feet of water. Art, there's a big difference between 17 and 31. There's a big difference between 17 and 31. Why don't you know if you are in roughly 17 feet of water? And why don't you know if you are in roughly 31 feet of water? You are on the boat all the time. This is what they do, Art. They boat all the time. They go to Horn Island all the time. Why don't you know if you're in 17 foot of water or 31 foot of water? 31 foot of water. But Art, it gets better than this, Art. It gets better. The CTO operator, Art, says, do you want me to call the Coast Guard? Do you want me to call the Coast Guard? Guess what he said? We don't need the Coast Guard. Art, if your boat is sinking, do you care who comes to rescue you? If your boat is sinking, if I'm sinking in 31 feet of water, you can call the Coast Guard, you can call the aliens, you can call the Snow Bunny boat, you can call whoever you want to call if my boat is sinking. He told the operator, we don't need the Coast Guard. Who does that, Art? Who says we don't need the Coast Guard if we sinking? So she says, okay. She says, how many adults are on the boat? Pay attention to this, Art. We caught him in another lie. Listen to this. She says, how many adults are on the boat? He said, quote, there are no adults on the boat. He lied, Art. Second lie. First lie, he said, Nolan said, I'm staying behind to hang out with Katie. Y'all can leave me. Katie said Nolan told her, I'm heading back to the boat because my friend's about to leave. That was lie number one. That was lie number one. You lied and said, Nolan said he was going to stay behind with Katie. That was a lie. Lie number two, the CTO operator asked you, how many adults are on the boat? He said there are no adults on the boat, Art. Why did he lie? Why did he lie? She said, how many people on the boat? He said, everybody on the boat is under 21. Art, she said, that was not my question. Art, she begged him to tell her how many people are on the boat. She said, that's not my question. How many people are on the boat? She said, is anybody breathing on the boat? He said, a lot of people breathing on the boat. She said, is there anybody living on the boat? He said, yes, people are alive on the boat. Art, I would like to investigate her. She didn't do no crime. I want to know what made that operator say, is anybody breathing on the boat? What made her say, is anybody alive on the boat, Art? What did she hear in the background? What did that operator hear in the background to make her ask him, is anybody breathing on the boat? That don't sound like a regular question. And then she said, is anybody living on the boat? It's almost like she could feel something was going on. I would love to know if those were standard questions, Art. I would love to know if those were standard questions or if she had a hunch that something fishy was going on. Now check this out, Art. She asked him a third or fourth time. He would not answer the question, Art. He would not answer the question. How many people are on the boat? Guess what he said, Art? Like 7. Like 7. Art, the boat only holds 8. They went out there that morning with 8. 7 Caucasians and Nolan. 7 Caucasians and Nolan. Art, they left with 7, right? When she said how many people on the boat, Art, why did he say like 7? Why did he say 7? It's only 7 people. Why couldn't he say 7? Why did he say like 7? You know why he said like 7, Art? Because he didn't know if Nolan was still alive or not. He didn't know if Nolan was still alive or not. So let me say like 7 in case he survives. Because Art, if you call me up and say, Dr. Umar, how many people at the basketball game? I can't count them all, Art. I'm going to say like 100. It's like 100. Because I don't know. It could be a little less than 100. It could be a little more than 100. I'm going to say it's like 100. But Art, if there's only 7 people on the boat, I don't need to say like 7. I can just say 7. He didn't want to give her a direct answer. Why didn't he want to give her a direct answer, Art? Because he knows it should have been 8 people on that boat. He knows it should have been 8 people on that boat. So he said like 7 because he didn't want to say 7 so nobody can ask him where the hell was Nolan. Nolan's life was taken between 3:30 and 4:30 and they know exactly how and who. They know exactly how and who, Art, and they took the phone and the keys to get rid of any evidence. They took the phone and the keys to get rid of any evidence. And if Sister Christine and Sister Tashima didn't go to that girl's house to get that phone, they would have discarded it, Art. They were going to discard the keys in the phone and act like they never even had them either. Now, I'm going to give you this one piece, Art, and I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to give you this one piece, Art, and I'm going to leave it alone. As I said, I'm very disappointed in the fact that Sheriff Ledbetter and District Attorney Morath are not investigating all 30 of those children. I'm disappointed that all 3 boats were not treated like a crime scene. Now, my primary theory, they unalived him on the boat, threw him over to make it look like a drowning. They unalived him on the boat or on land before they took off, threw him in the water to make it look like a drowning. But I'm going to say this to you, Art. I have another theory as well. I got 2 theories. That's my first theory. Let me give you my second theory, and we're done on this. There's a strong chance, Art, that after they unalived Nolan, they held on to the body overnight and dumped it the next day, Art. Or they took the body to one of the other islands around Horn Island and dumped the body. And let me tell you why I believe this, Art. Let's go back to Emmett Till. Let's go to Emmett Till, Art. Emmett Till was unalived on August 28th. They bob-wired Emmett Till to a 75-pound cotton gin, 1955. August 28th, 1955, Emmett Till was unalived, and they bob-wired him to a 75-pound cotton gin and threw him in the Tallahatchie River. The Tallahatchie River, Art, is a freshwater river. Horn Island is on the Gulf of Mexico. It's salt water. Salt water is rougher and more active and more buoyant than freshwater, Art. Follow me on this. Emmett Till got thrown in the Tallahatchie, bob-wired to a 75-pound cotton gin, Art, and his body made it up to the surface on August the 31st. Even though he was tied to a 75-pound cotton gin in a river, his body floated up to the surface in 3 days, Art. Emmett Till was 14. Nolan Wells is 18. If Nolan Wells was unalived and dumped immediately on July 4th, Art, we should have saw his body on July 5th. If Emmett Till's body can make it to the top in 3 days, tied to a cotton gin, Art, why did Nolan Wells' body only surface the morning of July 6th? I think there is a strong possibility they held onto his body, Art, because they were afraid that if they dumped it immediately, it would surface too soon. If they dumped Nolan's body too soon, it would have surfaced before they were ready. That body could have floated back, Art, before they made it back home. They all go to jail. They could have held onto his body, Art, and dumped it on July 5th or dumped it the morning of July 6th. Because according to science, Art, Nolan's body should not have surfaced for 3 days. Or, according to what happened to Emmett Till, it should have surfaced within a day. The fact that it took Nolan Wells' body 41 hours before we saw it, I think that body might have gotten dumped, Art. I think they might have held onto Nolan Wells' body and dumped it a day or two later. And that's why the other 2 boats are important to the investigation, Art. How do we know Nolan wasn't unalived on one boat and held on the second boat? How do we know that? How do we know a second boat didn't take Nolan Wells' corpse to one of them other islands and then the body floated back, Art? Why are we not investigating all 3 boats and all 30 white children? Art, I'm going to tell you like this. For that boy to not tell that CETO operator how many people was on that boat, and she asked him 3 times, and the fact he lied and said there was no adults, and then he still didn't answer her question and said everybody under 21, and she had to repeatedly say that was not my question. Why are you unwilling to tell her it's only 7 people and not 8 people? Last thing I'm going to say, Art, shout out to Tyler Perry, Terrell Owens, Colin Kaepernick for helping to pay for the funerals autopsy, as well as reward money for information leading to an arrest. But guess what, Art? That reward money needs to be more than $175,000. Mississippi is the poorest state in America. 1 in 4 people live in poverty. We need that reward money, Art, to go up to $1 million. I need LeBron James, Rihanna, Tiger Woods, Venus, Serena, Kanye. Get that reward money up to $1 million, Art. We need the reward money up to $1 million so those white folks will start talking. $175,000, Art, is not enough money. We need $1 million. Guess how they found the 3 civil rights workers in Philadelphia, Mississippi in 1964, Art? Remember the Ku Klux Klan murdered those 3 workers? Cheney, Goodman, and Swerner, Mississippi burning? Mississippi burning? Guess how they found out? An undercover FBI agent tipped off the FBI to where those 3 bodies were buried. Do the FBI have any undercover officers operating in this case? Does the state of Mississippi Bureau of Investigation have?
Okay, you guys. I'm trying to update the Karmelo Anthony situation just as well because they won a big one. I was told that sorry. They said that they won a big one in court, right? Say that the judge is gonna allow cameras and so forth in this case. So I want to touch on that just a little bit. Let's see what she's saying.
All right, Vessels, welcome back to Tony Talks, Best of Compelling Sports Edge.
They be showing all this old stuff. They need to stop paying for promotions and stuff. Let me see.
There's news today in the Karmelo Anthony case. The Collin County DA, his name is Greg Willis, is speaking out for the first time since Karmelo Anthony filed this motion for a new trial. They filed it right away after the conviction. It was July 7th they filed. As a reminder, last month the jury rejected Karmelo's self-defense arguments. They found him guilty of murdering 17-year-old Austin Metcalf after stabbing Austin in the chest for no apparent reason at a track and field meet in April of last year down in Frisco, Texas. Both of the boys were 17 at the time of the stabbing. That same jury sentenced Karmelo to 35 years in prison. Then Karmelo got a brand new legal team right after the conviction. And one of the arguments the brand new legal team is making on appeal is that they want a new trial. And one of the arguments that they're positing is that the prosecution, they say, breached an undocumented pretrial agreement between the prosecution and the defense, in which both sides allegedly pledged not to introduce, quote, character evidence, character, reputation, or extraneous conduct evidence concerning either Austin Metcalf, the victim, his brother Hunter, his twin brother, or the defendant, Karmelo Anthony. We're not going to do character evidence on any of these. And the defense really wants us to know in their filing that they had negative things they could have said about Austin, the dead 17-year-old, and his brother. And they list some of it there. Like, oh, we held off because of this gentleman's agreement. And we were told that the prosecution would hold off with respect to Karmelo.
I don't want to hear that. What are we? I seen a new update on TikTok. Hold on. Hold on a second. Let me see where the hell it might be on. I thought I saved it. They said the new update. They that's too long. Too long. Sorry, I be trying to save stuff when I see it, so we can look over it together just to know what's true and what's false. There's a lot of Nolan stuff, but hold on. This is my music list, y'all. I guess not. I don't want to listen to her. Is this it right here? Okay, this might be it, y'all.
Had an unwritten agreement to exclude certain characters. Anthony's legal team seeks new judge and new trial. Karmelo Anthony's new attorneys filed motions to remove the judge who presided over his murder trial. You know the story? Judge John Roach Jr. arguing that his comments create suspicion that he cannot impartially oversee the remaining proceedings in the case, and they're ongoing. Anthony's new attorneys who did not represent him at the trial say in their filings that the court erred when it restricted public access to the trial, violating Anthony's rights. So much, remember, was interest, so much public interest in the proceedings, and to not be able to view it as members of the public, that's a concern. They also appealed on the grounds that the state and defense had an
It must be on TikTok, y'all. Hold on a second. Let me see if it's on TikTok. What it is, you guys.
Crazy guys, breakout right here. But as I was skimming through this video, you guys, wait until you see what I find here. First of all, oh my God, looky here, right? And right now, as we speak, I have just found Nolan. And you see Nolan, look, you know what's crazy, guys? This was Nolan right here with his glasses on the same day he took that picture on. Look what I see here, guys.
So what do y'all think about this? Let me know in the comments. The creator who made that video, who went in and scanned and found Nolan, he's on the Book of Faces under $250,000, like a quarter MILL. I don't know. But yes, how crazy. I'm mind blown. Everybody been wondering where was Nolan and when. That video has a timestamp on it, and it's certainly after the time.
But as I was skimming through this video, you guys, wait until you see what I find here. First of all, oh my God, looky here, right? And right now, as we speak, I have just found Nolan. And you see Nolan, look, you know what's crazy, you guys? This was Nolan right here with his glasses on the same day he took that picture on. Look what I see here, guys.
So what do y'all think about
Y'all don't know if this stuff Photoshop, but I want to go look at the video.
The creator who made that video, who went in and scanned and found Nolan, he's on the Book of Faces under $250,000, like a quarter MILL. I don't know. But yes, how crazy. I'm mind blown. Everybody want.
Kelly, you referred to Porsche. Crazy guys, breakout right here. But Kelly, you
Girl. You can ask the flower.
I don't know where to go.
Y'all, they just not in TPS. They say the dose is.
Y'all, this is my TikTok, y'all. Make sure y'all follow. I have so much going on. There's a few people that right here that I just posted. They were on a live. One of them was, I think, from Wisconsin, but the rest of them was considered hung in the state of Mississippi. So make sure you guys go check my TikTok out. Um, I gotta see what's going on. Hold on. I don't feel like copy. Yeah, they talking about the stuff with Carmelo Anthony. I gotta catch up on that. Carmelo Anthony's update. TikTok be doing their job. Let's go.
I know you don't know this, but you're about to find out right now. There is a
Do you want to play or no?
major update in the Karmelo Anthony case, and I think you should pay attention to it. As we all know, they severely limited public access during Karmelo Anthony's murder trial.
Yes, TikTok is not wanting me to play it. I could listen to her.
We have an update on Carmelo Anthony's case. A new judge by the name of Sid.
What the fuck? What is going on? Okay, remove this. Maybe. Come on, girl. Every time it thunders, shut up, come out here.
We have an update on Carmelo Anthony's case. A new judge by the name of Sid Harle has been assigned. Before anybody gets excited, he's not here deciding whether Carmelo Anthony is innocent or not, or if he gets a new trial. The only job right now is to decide whether Judge John Roach should be removed from Carmelo Anthony's post-trial proceedings. Yeah, we're still there. We all know why the defense wants Judge John Roach off this case. They argue that Judge John Roach created an appearance of bias.
I am here with a Karmelo Anthony update. So he has received an appeals lawyer. His name is Donnie Perales. He is a McKinney-based attorney associated with the law.
I know you don't know this, but you're about to find out right now. There is a major update in the Carmelo Anthony case, and I think you should pay attention to it. As we all know, they severely limited public access during Karmelo Anthony's murder trial. But now that the judge himself is facing a recusal hearing, suddenly there's going to be a camera and an overflow of people inside of the courtroom. So why wasn't this same level of access available to Karmelo when he was fighting for his freedom? According to a news source in Texas, Karmelo's attorneys are asking for Judge John Roach Jr. to be removed from the post-trial proceedings, and that hearing is scheduled for August 19th before the Judge Sid Harle. Why does this matter? This matters because Karmelo's new attorneys are arguing that restrictions on public access during his original trial violated his Sixth Amendment right to a public trial. During testimony, public seating was extremely limited, and there reportedly was no overflow courtroom. Mind you, this murder trial took place on a Saturday. But for this recusal hearing, the court is allowing a camera and an overflow of audience in the courtroom. Now, that does not mean that Karmelo has been granted a new trial and Judge Roach has not been removed. August 19th will address whether Judge Roach should remain on the case. Then on August 20th, Karmelo's motion for a new trial is scheduled to be heard. Let's watch for these two dates very close, okay? Because what happens on August 19th could determine who is sitting on that bench when Karmelo asks the court for another chance at justice. I know you don't know this, but you're about to find.
Yeah, this is crazy. I think when one judge say he's guilty, it should go on to another judge. That's the things got to change. Some things got to change. Some things got to change. There's not much. I did see that, and I wanted you guys to know they have an update. So during the hearing, they will be letting cameras, and they will let overflow of people in the actual courtroom this time. And it starts on the 19th and the 20th. So I know that TikTok will be all the way live, rocking it, and they'll probably have people out there in Texas just as well, trying to see what's going on. I will try to stay up, from now until try to keep the updates going on with Karmelo, because I know that he still needs attention to his situation, because I don't think he should be in jail. It's just what I feel. Get mad, debate. I don't care. You get what I'm saying? Y'all have a great day. I'm finna get off here. I'll be back on at 12 o'clock, about 10 o'clock tonight. Have a great day.
Looking for a K-12 education that goes beyond the textbook, right from the comfort of home? Welcome to a new standard of online learning.
Beyond general education, our students dive into specialized virtual labs for real-world job readiness. Genealogy lab, historical lab, civil law, and our media and public speaking lab.
We prepare global citizens with immersive Spanish and French language tracks. And because we're proudly Florida-based and Step Up certified, families can access the elite education through state scholarship programs.
Diverse representation, academic excellence, and career readiness, delivered entirely online, wherever you are. Secure your child's spot today. Secure your child's spot today. Visit our website to enroll.